Good afternoon and welcome to the 194th episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. If you tried to tune in on Monday, we had some technical difficulties, so we're going to pick back up with the guests that were slotted for that day. It's going to be Austin Crisp, Ringgold's new head coach, and then TJ Anderson, Walker's new head coach. Both of them have come up within the program, so there is that familiar aspect there, but obviously they've got big goals ahead of them to build their programs, and so I'm excited to talk to them, and we'll get started right away with Coach Crisp. Coach, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So I wanted to talk to you Monday ahead of National Signing Day. It's always a fun week. I enjoy seeing the class of 2023, the next year's class, just go on to the next level. Georgia's been so great at it. So just how was that process this week at Ringgold?
It's been really good. We've had one kid sign so far. We got another one signing next Wednesday. Hopefully a couple signing next Wednesday. So it's been a busy couple of weeks, but it's been a very good couple of weeks. Anytime we can get these kids an education path, then we're being.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the guys that did sign that you're referring to is Peyton Williams. Your running back had a great career for you guys there. Talk about what kind of player Reinhardt's going to be getting.
Ryan's getting a special kid. He's not only a player, but he's a great person. He's going to be a great man one day. As an athlete, he's probably one of the best athletes that I've ever coached. That's anywhere, including Ringgold. He has unbelievable hands and just a natural ability of filling the out the games.
Yeah, he had a big season, I think 15 touchdowns, and we were covering all the signing day, and in particular Reinhardt. They also got Harlem Diamond. We know what he did throughout his career at Cedartown. I was just really impressed what they have going on in there, but I wanted to ask you about where you've been around in Georgia, how familiar you are with the Ringgold area, Ringgold High School, and just what this head coaching job means to you.
I'm not far from here. I went to high school at Gordon Lane High School. Soon after graduation, I got a community coach job at a middle school close by, Saddle Ridge Middle School. After that, I went back to Gordon Lane to coach. Then I was at Lafayette High School with Coach Fisher, and then Coach Akins hired me to be quarterback coach and game coordinator. And then in 2020, we had some coaching changes. He promoted me within to be the offensive coordinator, and just the other day, I was promoted within to be the head football coach. So this job means the world to me. It's funny, I wrote a paper when I was 18 years old in my senior English class. It was called The Future You. And I wrote about how my goal in life was to be a football coach. As I continued to write, I got into the second, third paragraph, I want to be a coordinator. Well, by the end of the paper, I realized that I want to be a head football coach. So seeing this dream be fulfilled, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's a really special profession, just being around it. I mean, just representing the school, the program, the responsibility with all the players, the impact you leave on them. It's really just something special to wake up to every day. But you mentioned that you were a quarterback coach, then the coordinator, now head coach. I think I saw that you might still be looking for a quarterback coach. So how did that work out last year, and then what's it going to look like this year?
Well, it's we're still in the process of looking. We're talking to a few people that we think have high character and extensive knowledge of the game. I've had a lot of people ask me about play calling, and as of right now, I will hold that role as the offensive play caller. I will have an offensive head coach to manage the administrative part of it, of scheduling, practice times, and stuff like that. But that's kind of what we're looking at.
And I mean, we were covering the state during all the COVID years and all that stuff. But I think what's interesting about your program is you guys go 0-10 in 2019, then you're hit with the COVID year, all those
Hmm.
obstacles. And from there, I mean, you guys have really responded, it seemed. You went 5-5 in 2020, 10-2 2021, and then another solid year last year. So, what was it about kind of that reflective process during that year where it's not that you guys have to reinvent what you're doing, but kind of just focus more on the day to day and the fact that anything can change?
Well, I mean, 2019, the 0-10 year, we had a excessive amount of injuries. I think we had uh, 28 kids miss at least 2 games that season. So we got hit with the injury bug pretty hard. And then going into 2020, when COVID hit, it was a learning curve for everybody, of course, because nobody had ever been in that situation before. But I think COVID helped us in a sense by we were able to break down even further because, at one point we could only have 10 kids and 2 coaches for practice time. And we were able to really look at the nitty gritty, the little bitty things to be successful as a, so even though it was a very stressful time and it was a horrible time that I hope we never have to go through again, we did learn enough from that situation to propel us to a more successful couple of years after that.
Yeah, and I don't want to dwell too much on that 2019 season, but you mentioned all the injuries and then your schedule. I mean, that's a really tough region you guys are playing in, all those
Hmm.
programs. You have North Murray, that was Lad McConkey's senior year. You have Calhoun,
Hmm.
Sonoraville's on the up and up. And I mean, Harrison County. I've just been impressed with what I've seen from that entire area of the state, that corner per se. It used to be Calhoun's the gold standard. That's all changed. They're obviously up in classification now, but just the growth has been tremendous. So, what have you just seen, just with all those great head coaches up in that area, and just the level of competition week in and week out?
Well, I think the level of competition is pretty high. We are all pretty equivalent around here. Uh, one of my good friends, which is Coach Aiken's son, talked about, in the state of Georgia, everybody's got a dude. And that's true no matter what school you go to in the state of Georgia. We have so much talent. And in this area, it's getting tougher because it's almost like we're all equal. We all have the same amount of talent. So it's definitely getting tougher. And I mean, you've got North Murray, who is now in a different region. This year's region will be, LFO, Ridgeland, Bremen, who is a very, very physical football team. Um, and then we've got a few more after that. Adairsville is a very, very good football team. But if you look at the schedule every single year, you can't pick out the top four. Um, that'll make playoffs. Last year, we weren't in our little area. We weren't even picked to be in the top four, and we were a region runner-up. So there's a lot of talent up here. There's a lot of dang good football coaches up here.
Absolutely. And then last year, you guys opened up the non-region schedule. I thought that was fantastic. Heritage Catoosa was a great team last year. They're up in classifications. Northwest Whitfield, there's kind of that spirited rivalry there. And then Gilmer, that was a
Mhm.
team last year that has really taken a turn. So is it going to be those same three non-region opponents this year?
It is just because
Nice.
of how, yeah, the 2 year. But yeah, when you look at those three football teams, every three football teams won 6 or 7 games last year. The first three that we played. So we definitely, even outside of our region, we play some stiff competition.
Yeah, and you mentioned the physicality of Bremen. I feel like a team like that, they always have
Hmm.
all those state championship caliber wrestlers, just those really tough football teams. So, what is it about just the Ringgold program where you guys have tried to get on that toughness level and just really prepare physically to handle this?
Well, I think buying in the weight room. We buying in the weight room, I would say about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and it's made us mentally and physically tougher. My firm belief is that sorry, the bell's ringing. I believe that the weight room is the great equalizer of every sport. And I think it makes you physically and mentally tougher. So I think taking the weight program to another level has helped us tremendously.
And when you're talking about taking over the head coaching job, I mean, was it a pretty swift process, just from when it opened up when Coach Atkins stepped down to by the time you were named head coach?
Yeah, it was quick. It wasn't. It didn't seem swift, at least with me. It was a whirlwind for about weeks. But I'm just blessed that Mr. Jones and has given me the opportunity to take over such a successful program.
Yeah, and then in the playoffs last year, what a tough draw, just going up against Region 5 anyway in the first round. I mean, you guys matched up with Carver. It could have been Sandy Creek. It could have been Cedar Grove. But, I mean, what did you see in that matchup? You guys played well. Just one of those where you're going up against one of the premier 3A programs.
Yeah, I mean, I thought our kids played extremely well on both sides of the ball. We made mistakes that we don't normally make, I will say. But overall, it was fun for our kids to see that caliber of talent too. I mean, and considering the score and how we played, I was very impressed with our kids. Our kids never laid down. We scored, I think it was 14 points in the fourth quarter. Our kids never laid down. We got a few stops later in the game, so it was very impressive for our kids. I was very pleased with that.
Yeah, and there's that mutual respect there for sure. And I saw that you were reaching out to give your thoughts to the Carver program after the news of Coach Bell over there. So just what's that like, just being a coach in Georgia, getting to meet all these programs and knowing that, yeah, there is that competition on Friday nights, but in the end, it's you guys do kind of support each other and have that common shared interest to just elevate the state and each other.
Well, I mean, we can all pick at each other, and I've got some coaches buddies at different schools that we aggravate, and of course you're a competitive person. We all are, but in the end, we're a coaching fraternity essentially, and we all know how much time we spend away from our families to make sure that kids are getting what they need. And when something like that happens, it's a tragic event. Our heart goes out to those guys.
Yeah, and speaking of things that are kind of bigger than football, I saw that you became a dad this last season. So what was that like? I think might have been at the beginning of the year, but just having that new family aspect to go home to.
I've never won a state championship, but I assure you, having that little girl in my arms for the first time is 10 times better. It's a surreal feeling. I'm a first-time father, and I get choked up just talking about it. But I am one blessed man to have the opportunity to have my wife, Anna Crisp, who's our head cheerleading coach, and then my baby girl. There's not much better than that.
Okay, so your wife is the cheerleading coach. So how exciting is that? Is just on game day, kind of being on the sidelines together. Does she give you your space? That's what I'm trying to say.
She does. She does give me my space on Fridays. She knows that it's a very stressful time. However, she knows how to pick at me, and she does to make sure I stay loose throughout the day. But it is a wonderful experience to be able to teach and coach with your best friend, and that's what my wife is to me. And be able to have Harper and moving up through the program and moving up through the school. I mean, I can't wait till she starts walking so she can,
Oh, looks like he cut out. We'll see if we can reconnect. I think Coach Anderson was calling in. Sorry, Coach. Go on.
Now, just saying, working with my wife as a teacher and a coach, I get to work with my best friend, and then bringing Harper up through the ranks from our local elementary. Can't wait till she starts. She'll be running around the field house, having a good time.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. So let's talk about your roster real quick. The number of seniors you have, starters returning, and just who's been impressing you just physically in the weight room early on so far, where you can tell they're really trying to get after it and build now for what's going to be a not a long season, but a tough one. We know how hot it is when it starts
Mhm.
out, and you got to have that longevity.
Yeah, we're a very young but talented football team this year. We've got some kids right now in the weight room. We are doing after school workouts. Bryce Hart, one of our linebackers, he's a very good football player, has improved tremendously in the weight room. We've got Jim Clark, who played H-back for us and a little bit of Y, tight end type body. He's going to be moving to guard. He's a very strong physical kid. He squatted 475 the other day. We do have a lot of younger kids, starter-wise, coming back seniors. We're going to have Braxton Holtkamp. We're going to have wide receiver. We're going to have Hudson Moss, one of our safeties. So we do have plenty of kids coming back to play. We have plenty of starters, but those guys are young. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the future because they played pretty daggone good as sophomores and freshmen.
Yeah, and last sort of question, but one, who is the biggest rivalry on your schedule? And then just as a head coach, game day, you guys got a lot going on. Your staff's obviously going to help. You got to have the training staff on the same page, everyone. So that's going to be an exciting challenge. But who is the biggest rival? And then just talk a little bit about your staff and just the collective vision and how you guys have gelled together.
Yeah, well, we've got two in-county rivals. We've got LFO and we've got Heritage. The older folks around here really don't like LFO, and the younger folks don't like Heritage. So we get to enjoy two rivalry weeks that mean a lot to us. As for the staff, we're keeping everybody together, which is a very good thing. We've got, on defense, we've got Coach Houston White, who's our defensive coordinator. He's a very, very good defensive mind. He's a great offensive mind, too. He's coached everywhere. Mark Davis is our defensive line coach. He's also the assistant head coach. He's been a head coach also. We've got Tony Cote at linebackers. He's been a college football coach at UTC, and he's been here a long time. We've got Chris Davis, who's now been in coaching for a long time, who does a great job with our corners. We've got Kobe Holtkamp as our running backs coach. He has been a defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, does a great job for us. We've got Jason Campbell, who's been an offensive coordinator. He does our offensive line alongside Tucker Wilson. Those two guys as a pair have been together for a very long time now. Do a fantastic job. We've got our receivers coach, Drew Smythe, who we picked up from a neighboring school, who's a very, very technical person, very technical football coach, and he does a fantastic job. So overall, we've got some very, very good football coaches. We got to find a quarterback coach right now. So.
Yep. And the young and exciting team. Last question. I saw it's Michael Jordan Day. It's 2-3-23. So outside of football, do you have another sport where you just really enjoy watching it or playing it or just following it? Oh, froze up on us. Wanted to see if he was a baseball guy, basketball guy. Anyway, Coach Crisp, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to have to check back in later this offseason. Really excited what you guys have going on at Ringgold. But let's go ahead and take a quick break. Okay, we got him back. Yeah, I was just asking, I guess in lieu of Michael Jordan Day 2/3-23, is there a sport outside of football where you really enjoy watching it, playing it, or following it?
Well, I wrestled through high school until some injuries, played baseball. I enjoy all sports. I even as a 5'7" on 5'8" on a good day, I enjoy watching some basketball. I don't know much about it. I drive our basketball coach crazy because I ask him all kinds of questions. But anytime the NCAA wrestling championships are on, I definitely flip my way through it.
That's awesome. Yeah, we got the traditionals coming up, I think, in 2 weeks. I
Hmm.
know that's going to be big in 3A. Well, Coach Crisp, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to check in later this offseason. Best of luck and have a good weekend.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep, you bet. All right. So thanks, Coach Crisp. Go Tigers. All right, we're going to take a quick break, though, and thank our sponsors, Georgia Farm Bureau.
This remains the same today. We've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So our next guest, we're going to connect with him in just a second. It's going to be Walker head coach TJ Anderson. He is taking over the program from, I believe, the same role that Coach Crisp was, offensive coordinator. And we'll see kind of what this new era for Walker is going to look like. Once again, this season, they aren't going to compete in a region, but we did see a similar thing with Chambly, where they were just trying to kind of build the football program, get young players ready to roll, and then last year they had one of their best seasons ever. So it's a strategy that can really pay off.
I got a comment for you. They're watching it live on YouTube. Our boy Jimmy said 3A is the new SEC of Georgia high school football.
I like that. So Jimmy Cash, shout out to him. I completely agree with that. He said that 3A is the SEC of Georgia high school football. And there's no doubt, just over the last several years, it's been outstanding. And if you look at which classification has the most success playing upwards, it's 3A. They knock off 7A programs. I cover 4A, and they have a ton of success against our programs as well. And you could just argue that Region 5 alone is the SEC of Georgia high school football, with Sandy Creek, Cedar Grove, and Carver, Atlanta getting it done every single year, competing for state championships. And yeah, I really like 3A. So great point right there. It's always exciting. Then you got your Pierce counties, Peach County, just the list goes on. It's really impressive. But Walker, they're going to be in 2A. Sorry, they're going to be, 2A, but they will not compete in a region this year. Last year, they played a abbreviated 8-game schedule. They won their opener against St. Mary's Academy. I think that's a Giza school, and then ended up going 1-7. Played some close ball games against Pinecrest Academy, 26-22 loss. They will be returning their quarterback, Aiden Charles. He was a junior last year. Threw for 866 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then they had a freshman running back, Grant Addison. He had 3 touchdowns, 184 yards. And then really contributed in the passing game, 500 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. So we'll see what this next year is going to look like for Walker. I think Coach Anderson might be installing an option system to run. We'll ask him about that. Let me see real quick. Okay, he says he's just seeing a blue screen right now.
It might be his connection. Usually blue screen connection.
Okay, one sec, guys.
I might have to close out, go back in.
One sec. Okay, we're going to try one more time. And I believe Coach Anderson was a recruiter at Georgia Southern, so I'm interested to talk to him about what he was doing there. He also played there. And so he has in his profile up there option football with a heart, and then GATA, get after their you know what. So, I mean, Walker, as a program, I was interested to see them go up to Class 2A. They were on the smaller end, but that's a result of the out-of-zone enrollment calculation multiplier that counts the students that come in out of the district as, I believe, 2 or 2.5 students. So that bumped them up to 2A. They're in the process of just building the program up with this non-region schedule throughout it. And then you look across the board at Walker. I mean, they're great in athletics. Their basketball team's outstanding. Baseball, track and field, swimming, wrestling. So there's a lot of pride at the Wolverines program throughout athletics. And I know that there's a ton of excitement with the new hiring of Coach Anderson. So let's see real quick what they had going on this week. Okay, we got Coach Anderson. Coach, thank you so much for coming on. How's it going?
Doing good, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
How you guys
You
doing?
bet. Doing well. So first question, I saw that you guys weren't going to do the region schedule again this year. I brought up Chambly. They did that same thing, I think, a few years ago, and then went into the region last year, had an unbelievable season. So walk us through kind of the state of the program at this point and just the decision to maintain the non-region format.
Yeah, so the notion behind that is, Craig, is that we really just don't have the guys and the numbers and the talent level to compete right now within our football program in the region that we'll be scheduled to play in. The past 2 years, we've really just taken a hit with the football program, not having many guys out coming out to play. This past year's 2022 season, we finished the year with probably about 21 kids total on the team. And so not a single person in the sophomore class. So we're really just trying to rebuild and regrow the program. So that is the idea behind not playing in the region.
Yeah, 21 is tough. We were talking to, who was it? It was Mount Pisgah. I think the year they had Cole Spence, they managed with 27, but 21, yeah, that's a little too thin, I would say. So, I mean, how are the numbers looking this next season?
So yeah, I don't have an exact number of what the numbers are going to be for the upcoming year. We are making a recruiting effort, not a recruiting effort, I should say, attracting effort to bring to get the kids that came out the previous year and get them back to playing, and also looking to bring in some talent from the outside through the admissions process this upcoming year. So. It's hard. It's hard with 21 kids. It's hard overall to try to put together a practice plan, much less even have, a defensive or offensive scout team and try to prepare for the next for your opponent. So it's tough, but hopefully we can get the numbers out. We got a great middle school group of kids that's coming up. That got to keep them excited and interested in the program, and hopefully things will continue to look better on the other side.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a big commitment. I was talking about just the Walker School in general. You guys are great across the board athletically. So a lot of those kids have already, I guess, gone a certain direction regarding their premier sport. But when you were at Georgia Southern, were you a recruiter there?
Yeah. So I was the director of high school relations, and I worked heavily with our offensive player personnel recruiting. So, I watched a ton of film. My first year there, we signed the number 1 class in the Sun Belt Conference. That was 2018, Coach Lunsford's first year. And so I was heavily involved with the recruiting process, doing a lot of on-campus tours, on-campus recruiting visits, things like that. And like I say, evaluating a ton of film on the offensive side, and then also helping our coaches when they went out on the road, helping navigate their itinerary and their travel plans as well. So, at Georgia Southern, we didn't have many personnel staff, so I think it was like 3 people in the whole entire personnel department. So we wore a lot of hats down there.
Yeah, and then talk a little bit about your playing days at Georgia Southern, just what that was like. What did you fall in love with the campus? Just being a
Yeah,
part of what the
yeah. I
Eagles are
fell in love
doing?
with winning.
Yeah.
So I graduated in 2000. Coming down there, Paul Johnson was the head coach. Had a guy by the name of Adrian Peterson, who was a college football Hall of Famer now, but at the time he was just a sophomore when I came in. And so Georgia Southern was, they were the top FCS program that was recruiting me, and of course it was in the state of Georgia, so lots of my family and friends could come down and see me play. But yeah, we were, that was Georgia Southern's heyday. The year I signed, they were coming off the 1999 national championship where they beat Jim Tressel and Youngstown State. I come in as a freshman in 2000. We win another national championship beating Montana for that title, and then from there on, we won. Pretty much the conference every year that I was there. Very successful, and I love my time down there. It's great.
And when did you leave Georgia Southern as the recruiter?
So I left in 2020, obviously during the pandemic. I was down there for the 18 and 19, and then I left in June of 2020 and decided to come back to the high school route. I was missing just being on the field and being able to coach. I had learned a lot. Definitely thankful for my time and that I was able to have down there with Coach Lunsford and Coach DeBest, learning a little bit of gun triple option. That's something was a little bit different. I played under Paul Johnson and under center flex bone, but being able to learn the gun triple from the zone principles and things was great for my career. And I just wanted to get back on the field and be a coach. So that's the reason for me leaving and getting back into high school.
Yeah, and I'm interested in hearing a little more about that gun triple option. Is it the case where, once you get the players in place, it's like the only way where it's not working is if you're beating yourself, if you're fumbling, if you're not making the right decisions? Do you see it that way?
Yeah. Everything's based off of inside zone, so there's a lot of zone principles. What you see in today, most spread offense are running some kind of inside zone, outside zone, and so when you incorporate option game, option ball is the ultimate equalizer in my opinion. And when you're able to leave a couple players unblocked and make them be wrong, you just become more of an explosive offense. So there's nothing that can go wrong in running the gun triple option for sure. So it's all about taking what the defense can give you and playing to the numbers game, really.
Yeah, and from a high school standpoint, if you're an offensive lineman that's running this gun triple option, does that translate, do you feel like, to almost any program if you're trying to play at the next level in terms of the skill sets, the blocking schemes? Like if you take a offensive guard that has been playing in that option system, is that something that kind of makes them more valuable in your mind?
I think it makes them more knowledgeable of the game, and you got to understand angles and leverage points and things like that. Running from the gun standpoint, it does slow it down a little bit. But like I said, most of college football, or what you see in football in general, is all run schemes are based off of inside zone. So when you're able to take an offensive lineman from the gun triple scheme, he really can fit into any offense from that standpoint. Under center is a little bit different. When you're doing under center and firing off the ball, those guys are doing a lot of firing off the ball, coming off fast, getting into your knees and your hips and just driving. It's mostly all gap down backer type of rules, veer blocking schemes. That's a little bit different and harder to probably translate to the spread offenses that you see today.
Yeah, all I know is this: when I was a walk-on at UGA, I often got put on scout team defense or scout team offense when we would have to play tech, and that week was never fun for me because I just remember
you probably got
chop
cut a lot.
blocked. Yeah. And I'm like, if you're a scout team player at a school like Georgia Tech, that's got to be brutal, but it is, I guess, that attention to detail and buying in that makes it work. So, it definitely was something we prepared for weeks at a time. And back in 2008, that was the year Tech came in and beat us, rushed for like 500 yards in Athens. So that was pretty impressive to see firsthand what they were able to do just to get to the next level. and
Right.
really gash our defense. I mean, wow.
Right, like I say, it's the ultimate equalizer. When you don't have very few Saturdays, Georgia Tech or where you see a lot of the military academies running this style of offense, and they're not going to match up, very much with the other team personnel wise. So, you run an offense that's going to give you and your team the best chance to win. And like I say, running option football, you can have more tweener linemen, guys that are not quite 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", or 300 pounds, but they're more squatty bodies and short, but just nasty, man. They come off the ball hard, and all those cut blocks. It's a pain to deal with. So I couldn't imagine being the scout team person
Yeah.
having to deal with that.
A lot of fun. So Najee and I on signing day, we were looking at the Sun Belt. We were very impressed with Arkansas State, App State, Georgia Southern, obviously Georgia State. But then we were just talking about all the success that the Sun Belt has had, some of these massive wins. Not only is the conference just competitive with a lot of teams vying for that conference championship, but, man, they've really gone out and beaten some big-time programs. So, I mean, what's your
Yeah.
overall sense of what's going on in the Sun Belt and how they're able to really have that attitude to compete with anyone?
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, in my opinion, the Sun Belt Conference is the best Group of Five conference out there. And when you see teams, and obviously Georgia Southern, Troy, Coastal Carolina, App State, these teams can go in and compete with any Power Five team on any given day. And you saw that this past year. I mean, you're in the Sun Belt, you're in the southern part of the region for a reason. There's superb and superior athletes down here that may not get the look to go to Power Five, to go to an SEC type school, but the Sun Belt plays pretty good football in that league, in that conference as well. So I highly recommend it to any high school recruit that is maybe looking at has an offer from a Sun Belt program. Again, today's world obviously is really different with the transfer portal. So you can go in the Sun Belt, prove yourself, make a name for yourself, and then obviously get a chance to possibly make that jump. Once you've got all the accolades and proven yourself as a player. I know we lost a couple players in 2018, to opportunities that they had to go to the Power Five school. So the Sun Belt's a great league, great players. Highly recommend it. It's the best.
100%. And then I want to ask you a little bit about Walker. So you were talking about uh, maybe getting more players to come to Walker. Obviously, there's a tremendous opportunity to be at the Walker School outside of just football. So what are you kind of looking for in terms of these guys that are going to come in? Because it's not like you guys have this big roster right now. You guys are still in that process. But just in
Right.
terms of selling what the Walker School is going to be able to do for them.
Well, first of all, we've got to be able to find the right fit and the right mission-centered kids. And what that means is Walker's academics already speaks for itself. As being one of the top 8 private schools in all of the state of Georgia, the number 1 private school in Cobb County. We offer a college preparatory track that is tremendous, 100% application rate that's accepted amongst all Walker graduates. So, they leave here with some of the best academics and tools ready to go on and take on the world. So we got to find student athletes that are ready to embody that. And that can handle that academic workload. So, again, the opportunity to come to Walker right now, if you want to be a part of something that's going to help establish and build a football program, that's the draw to come to Walker. As you mentioned earlier, we are playing a non-region schedule right now, so we've kind of for the last year and this past year, we joined the GAPS League, which is the Georgia Association of Private and Parochial Schools. And we played most of those schools just because of the talent level that we are able to be a little bit more competitive. But also, we don't have, there's opportunity for kids to be able to come in and have immediate playing time. So as we look to get back into the Georgia high school as soon as possible, and after this year, then obviously, you're hampered by, your school district and in your zoning district. If you choose to come to a private school. So our zoning district is Marietta City Schools, and so you have to live within that parameters to be able to transfer to Walker, and then also not be able to or be able to play without any kind of eligibility requirements. So.
Gotcha. And then what is, just in your mind, that number that you guys would need on the roster to eventually get to the point where you guys would be back in that region format? I mean, are you trying to get to 40, or how does that work?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, so we've got a number of kids that are here at Walker that, for whatever reason, decided not to play this past year. And I think, we're on track to get the majority of those kids back. Like I said, we finished with 21. If we can get to mid 30s, early or low 40s numbers, I think that'll just, again, just creates more opportunities and just more of a program where you're able to do things and run practices, provide that depth that's needed to compete in the region that we're in. Our region is a tough region. With you got also Mount Perrin, North Cobb Christian, but some of the APS schools, Washington, Thurl, South Atlanta,
Yep.
and those are schools that we have to be ready in for the physicality. And so, part of what's hurting us at Walker is not many kids here, just didn't grow up playing the game of football. And so a lot of our kids this past year were, their experience level was way down. Talking about having played the game of football for maybe 2 or 3 years. A lot of them just now came out starting 8th grade or 9th grade. And so the experience level, it's just we need to build that up and before we jump back into that hardcore region.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough. I mean, not just athletically, but just to know the plays and the schemes. It really does take that experience that only comes with time. But I think one of the most interesting things and compelling is the opportunity for immediate playing time. So I think that is a good sell. I mean, any kid that's just up for the challenge, wants to go out there and see what he's made of. That's a
Right.
exciting opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you don't get but so many opportunities, especially in the game of football. It's not like AAU basketball where you're playing all summer long or whatever. You got your 10 games, and that's basically what college recruiters are judging you by is off of your film. And so, the more that you're able to showcase and show what you got on film, and for us, you can come in and have immediate playing time. It's just the more exposure and the more experience that you're going to be able to grow and also show scouts and recruiters and what you can do, by your years of experience. So, we're looking at, this freshman class, bringing in some kids that, again, will have an impact immediately. And just, coming to Walker, you have the opportunity to be a 4-year starter, at a high school program, which speaks volumes for the experience that you'll gain. So, it's
Yeah,
a great
lots
deal.
of game film opportunity. Well, that's awesome, Coach. I really appreciate you coming on. Best of luck the rest of this offseason. We'll have to check in later. But yeah,
Yeah,
great stuff. I know it's
yeah.
going to be an exciting winter and spring at Walker, just with what you guys have going on.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And definitely check back in on us, throughout the year and the coming years, because we're looking to build this program, and it's going to be great. It's going to be fun times.
Outstanding. All right. Thanks, Coach Anderson. All
Thank you.
right. So there you have it. Walker is trying to get those roster numbers up. 21. That is really not feasible to field a football team for an entire schedule. I mentioned Mount Pisgah did it with 28. Actually made a run to the quarterfinals a couple years ago. But that takes guys playing both sides of the ball and pretty much having to play the season with no injuries. And you got to have guys that can understand how to play multiple positions. But I think with that option offense, if they get that down pat and have that as part of their team identity, you get guys that have been running that option system since a freshman year or sophomore year. They're really going to be able to execute it well, and then they'll give teams headaches for sure. And then I just think it's a good selling point with the academics at Walker and then the opportunity to play right away. If you're a young aspiring football player that's heading into their freshman year and you say, I want to be a potential college lineman, the academics are going to be there. And then you get 4 years to try to become a great player. And you have Coach Anderson there to lead you. He has experience playing at Georgia Southern for those national championship teams and as a recruiter. So really excited. We'll see what they have going on next season. But we'll go ahead and take one more quick break. I'll come back. We'll close out the show with some more news.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. We will be brief here. I wanted to talk real quick, though, about the swimming state championships that are ongoing. Najee has been covering that. They did 7A on Wednesday, and then we'll do the rest of the classifications in the next 2 nights. The Walton boys won, and then the North Gwinnett girls. You can go to scoreatl.com for all the results. One of the interesting things I wanted to point out, though, because we talk a lot about Bryce Dobson, the receiver and return man from Brookwood that's going to play at Georgia Tech. He was one of the rare football players that also was a swimmer. And his little sister did a phenomenal job this year. She's only a sophomore. She broke the Gwinnett County state meet record and then fell short, came in second place in the 100-yard backstroke to Norcross's Katie Choate. Katie had a 53:36 finish, and then Haley had a 54:37, so just a 1-second difference there. So as a sophomore, got to think that she's going to be competing for state titles these next 2 seasons. She had a great year right there, and it looks like athletics and swimming just run in the family. But be sure to check out the rest of the results this weekend. In terms of basketball, real quick, one of the games we spent a lot of time looking at was a couple weeks ago, the big McDonough Pace Academy showdown. McDonough won the first one, 71-60. This is 4A boys. And then Pace Academy won the rematch last Saturday, 59-50, and then had a really big win over Stockbridge, 60-36. They'll close out their season tonight against Luella. And in that game against McDonough, where Pace Academy won, thought this was interesting. Junior Kyle Green had 11 assists in that game. So we were talking about, what does Pace Academy have to do differently in terms of getting around McDonough's experienced guards, and we saw it right there. So Kyle Green, trying to see if that was his. Okay, so he is averaging a team-high 6.4 assists per game. The first time they played, he had 4 assists. They lost. The second time, he had 11. So I think that might have been the difference right there, is the ball going through the 6'3" junior Kyle Green and him getting his teammates involved. So I thought that was really interesting, just with McDonough being the number 1 team, Pace Academy being the 2, and then them splitting their regular season. Watch out for them. On the girls' side, I think Baldwin is the hottest team in 4A right now. Without question, they are just on a tear. They've won 10 straight. They beat Griffin by 12 points. Griffin was number 1 in that one. The win over Griffin, because it was such a sizable, 13-point win, that put Baldwin at number 1. And then they followed that one with a 76-31 win over Westside, 87-45 win over Perry. Both of those were the highest point totals they've had all season. They started the year 0-4, and they're just on absolute fire. They close out their season tonight against West Lawrence, and we'll see probably in less than 2 weeks a potential rematch with Griffin and Baldwin for the region title. The other big matchup, Najee was talking about it yesterday. You got to check out Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins. He covered so much news yesterday. but that's going to be the Woodward Academy and Lovejoy girls. Both have a 10-game win streak heading into it. An outstanding region with 3 teams currently tied at the top. And I think the winner of that one will take the number 1 seed into the region tournament. And then another big game tonight is going to be Walton and Wheeler boys. Wheeler is yet to lose within the state of Georgia. I think they're 13-6 or 14-6. And Walton lately, though, they've really been locking down defensively, holding a lot of teams to under 50 points. They beat Cherokee in a really low-scoring game. So that will be the thing to watch in that one. Can Walton just keep that game in the 50-point, 60-point range and then try to set themselves up for a potential victory, which would be probably the biggest upset of the season? We'll see. I mean, I think it's the smart bet to bet Wheeler, no offense, but I do like the way Walton's been playing. And there's just been so much incredible action in 7A with teams like Parkview, Peachtree Ridge shaking things up, Archer shaking things up, Norcross having big wins, then falling in other ones. So we're in store for an outstanding 2 weeks of region tournament action before the playoffs even begin. I think there's going to be massive action and upsets in the region tournaments that we haven't seen before. I think 7A has really been interesting. The play has been outstanding. And then on Monday, of course, is going to be the highly anticipated ESPN televised matchup between Wheeler and Newton. So anyone that wants to get a firsthand look at what 7A is going to be heading into the playoffs, that's a must-watch right there to see who handles that spotlight. Speaking of Monday, I will not be back on Monday, but I will be back on Wednesday. And then Najee and I will have our show on Tuesday. We got so much content up right now on Score Atlanta's YouTube page. You can follow Sports Talk with Naj. He has his own YouTube page, tons of content there as well to stay up to date on what's going on across the state. But yeah, we will be back next week. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and thank you to our guests for coming on.